But that also means, Ben, embracing the difficult times too. And I'm grateful because that really was the leaping off point to say, okay, this isn't working. And then once I figured that out, it was like, wow, everybody should know about this. So.
Welcome to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg.
All right, we are live from the Ben Reinberg I Own It studios today. And we just keep rolling out these great guests, a lot of women coming on the show lately, and just incredibly talented women entrepreneurs and different culture and coaches and mentors and you name it. And today is no different. Allison Maslan, thank you so much for joining us today. What a privilege to have you on the show. And thanks for spending some time with us.
So kind of you. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So I was hoping we can kick things off by discussing your best-selling book, if that's okay, Scale or Fail, which I have a copy of. In your experience, what drives so many businesses and their owners to suffer from smallness and mediocrity, as you say, and not face the real challenges involved in scaling, Allison?
Yeah, it really is. We are the problem. We're in our own way. And we are creatures of habit, Ben. So it's just the way we're wired. We do what we do. We do what we know. And that's great, when you're smaller. But if you want to scale, you cannot operate in the same way. You can't do the same strategies. You have to think differently. You have to be willing to restructure your whole company. Once you get to that, even 7, even 8 figures, so many business owners are still doing some of the same practices, and they're actually choking the growth of the company. They're control freaks, really. And we've all been there, and it's understandable why, but it just doesn't work if you're going to scale. You have to actually get out of the way of your company.
Yeah, it's so well said. There's no doubt about it. But your company, Pinnacle Global Network, is a coaching and consultant company, Allison, that's helped thousands of clients scale when we're talking about scaling here. And they use your patented Scale It method. Give us an overview of the method. Like, how does it work? You step into a company, what is the 30,000 view, if we could look at it, looking down?
Yeah, I mean, most business owners, CEOs are winging it every day. They are going towards what is screaming the loudest. And when you can have a solid strategic plan specific to your business, specific to your industry, and you have that to follow, and of course it's flexible because things happen like pandemics and so forth, the likelihood that you're going to get to where you want to go goes way up. So the Scale It method encompasses all aspects of the business, where you have some methods that will just focus on, let's say, marketing or sales or operations. The Scale It method focuses on the strategic vision of the company, which is the most important part. And interestingly enough, it's the area that business owners spend the least amount of time on. It focuses on cash flow, which is driven by marketing and sales and the organization of your finances, and your scalable model, which I'm happy to talk about because that's important. Then it focuses on the alliance of the team. So team is not just putting people in positions. It's having a team that's unified behind the vision. And then leadership is all about the CEO and those that are in the leadership positions in the company, how they communicate, how they show up, what their own mindset is, and then execution. Like, it's great to have this plan, but how are we executing? Are we meeting our KPIs? Are we meeting deadlines? And so forth. So it's all 5 of those pillars working together and really specific to the company. So it's not like a course necessarily. It's a living, breathing method that figures out the gaps where you want to go and then closing those gaps so you can get there faster.
You've had so much success in your career, Allison, and a lot of people ask me this question: what keeps you motivated to work today, and what part of your professional life do you enjoy now the most?
Yeah, it's so funny. I was in my car this morning and, the weather, I don't know how it's been in Newport, but in San Diego, it's been nothing personally, so Seattleites, but it's been like Seattle here for like 6 months. So we've been in overcast. So I was in the car and the sun was shining. I went to the gym this morning and I literally had this moment of going, I just love what I do. And I am so excited about what we're doing. And I love the fact that 40 years in of running companies and now 14 years with Pinnacle Global Network, where we mentor literally hundreds and hundreds of CEOs around the world, that it still fires me up. And the reason is that to see these CEOs that come in that are so buried, they're so exhausted, the business is running them instead of them running it. And some of them for decades, 10, 20, even 30 years this way, that are responsible for so many people, employees, families, to come in and let us kind of get our arms around their business. The transformation happens so fast, where it's like that saying, you're like 3 feet from gold. They're right there, but they're just stuck and doing it in the same old way. So that just fires me up. And also my team, we have over 30 mentors that have all run highly successful companies. Some of them have had thousands of employees. They've taken companies IPO. And they're doing this because they've created success in their life and they really want legacy. They really want to give back. And we have a good time together and they truly care. So, that to me at this point in my life, I've run 10 different companies. Now it's all about paying it forward because I know when the business owner, when the company can thrive, this is what changes our communities. This is what changes people's lives. And it's just a lot of positivity. And with everything going on in the world, we need this more than ever.
You brought up successful life, that term. What does it mean for you? And have you ever imagined what you would tell yourself when you're on your deathbed?
Yeah, I think, I remember being with my dad at the last moments, and my dad was one of the biggest inspirations in my life. And he was a businessman through and through. It's how I got on this path. And I asked him, I know you didn't ask me about my dad, but this kind of brings it back to me. I asked him, what did he love most about business? Because he loved to talk about business mostly. And he said, helping people. And I said, Dad, what is that like? What do you mean helping people? He was in the women's fashion industry, like women look better. I mean, what was it? And he said, and this was literally the last time that I was with him. He said, helping people have the momentum to move forward in their lives.
Wow. That's fantastic.
It was so profound for me. And I'm at that point. So success for me means living on purpose, that every day matters. Every day becomes your best day ever. Living fully. And of course, you like to have all the nice things. You want to have money. You want to have the opportunities. But for me, having all that stuff and not living on purpose to me would feel like misery. So, really just that's what lights me up. I'm grateful to be on this path. But that also means, Ben, embracing the difficult times too, because I'm not going to sit here and say like, ooh, all my life has always been like rainbows and bunnies and all that stuff. I mean, I've had the stuff. I've gone through divorce. I've gone through really tough financial times. I've gone through, practically killing myself in my business. So like I've lived through all that stuff, and I'm grateful because that really was the leaping off point to say, okay, this isn't working. And what needs to happen. And then once I figured that out, it was like, wow, everybody should know about this. So.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a great point, Allison, is really living in the present, not worried about the future, managing the future, but really, and not worried about the past and being present, and master that through your different experiences. I find that's challenging if you could live on purpose, and it's challenging for people because people worry about money, they worry about issues, they worry about troubled employees, you name it. There's always there's a litany of items that
every day
that we worry about as employers, and I'm no different when I run Alliance, my company. And so it's so well said. You know, what a great expression your father passed on to you. You should be very grateful for that. That's just
I am
advice he gave to you. So let's talk about what are some of the typical failure points for your clients of yours that you end up failing. I mean, how often are these failures something that the CEO has to control over to make his or own success?
Yeah, I mean, I think the word failure is going to have a lot of different connotations, right? And so, I mean, every business is going to hit walls. And what I know to be true is usually those walls are big clues to a mountain of success on the other side. So it's the choice. Are they going to quit, shut the doors, or are they going to say, okay, this isn't working, so let's really investigate what's off kilter here. And let's be a detective and let's find the clues. And usually that ends up launching something amazing. So for instance, with the pandemic, just like everybody else, March of 2020, here we had over 300 CEOs that we were mentoring at the time. And, they all start to freak out like everyone else, oh my God, are we going to have to shut our doors and so forth? And we just jumped in, my whole team, and we were helping them shift their entire companies within a few weeks. And they ended up having, many of them, record years during that time. But there are many businesses that ended up shutting their doors. So I think it's, we can get so, like you said, overwhelmed with worry and fear, and that paralyzes us. But what we don't realize that even in a challenging economy or whatever is going to unfold the next thing, there's so much opportunity if you lean in. But if you start focusing on the fear and what could happen, then, you can sabotage yourself. Whenever you make a choice out of fear, it never ends up working out well. But if you take that same energy that you're putting towards that worry and you say, you know what, this thing is here, this cash flow thing is here, this team issue is here, the economy, let's just compartmentalize it. Let's just stick it over here. We know it's there, but we're not going to really give it energy. And we're going to take that same energy and we're going to focus over here and we're going to see what can we create? What solutions can we come up with? What big leaps can we create? And usually by doing that, that solves this issue here.
Oh, I love that. That's so well said, because it's fear is such a crippling effect on people, and we all go through it. I mean, everyone goes through fear and worrying, and usually what ends up happening is what you're feared or worry about never really happens, or it doesn't happen. Yeah. It doesn't play out the way you think, and
it drains you. It drains you.
Yeah.
So
I love that. So I'm curious if resilience and experience, how does that resonate with you? Because we talk about failure, and I'm really curious on your perspective on failure. It's because I've heard that many VCs and angel investors look at 2 to 3x founders with higher regard than first-time founders, even if they are initial startups and not home runs. Does that emphasis on resilience and experience, does that resonate with you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, in our company, we work with more established business owners for kind of a reason. And, it's just, there's so much in those early days. And I think that, if you give a startup a bunch of money. And even Damon John told me, because he spoke at one of my events and we had a conversation around it. And he's like, he just doesn't think it's a great idea for startups to get this money because, they can just blow it quickly on things that aren't going to serve them. They don't really know how to hire. They don't really know how to build a team and get people in the right positions that are understanding what success looks like. So you end up having this revolving door of employees, or they blow it on a bunch of marketing that really isn't aligned with the pains of their customer. So I just feel like there's so much development that happens in those early days. And I do think building those resilience muscles are so important. When you have your back against the wall and you've got payroll due, it is amazing what can happen. So it's almost like, don't take the pain away. Let's see you overcome that, because that's where the confidence comes from. We were just together mentoring a couple. We did a retreat in Mexico. My husband and I live part-time in Zihuatanejo, Mexico. Mm-hmm. And there was a couple there. They've been married for, 30 years, and they've been running their company together. And they have a company that does financial aid support for universities. And there was a time, I think 5 years ago, that, they were selling their house. They were, running payroll on credit card. And I'm sure some of you listening, you've been there. And, now they have a $30 million company. But it was almost like the universe is like, okay, how badly do you want this? And now they can look back and go, wow, look where I've come from, So I think it's important.
That's life. How bad you want it? How bad you want to create success? A successful company.
And there's always an answer.
Yes.
Like there's always an opportunity and solution.
Let's talk about that winning mindset that you bring up. Share specific. What does that really mean when you say, you talk about winning mindset, and how do you teach that to your clients?
I think one of the roles that we play with the CEOs that we work with is to help them to see a much bigger vision for their future than they do. I think we tend to, as human beings, think much smaller just because we're wired for that survival. So if someone is saying, I'd like to open another location of my store, whatever it is, and, like we work with some people in the bridal industry, let's say, and we say, well, why don't you have 100 of those across the country? And then all of a sudden they're like, whoa, I hadn't thought about that. Or, if they're using other software models, well, what if you developed something for your company that was your own signature, IP? It just helps people to think much bigger. And I think when we can be excited about something in the future, it really helps us to grow and develop. I also think that winning mindset is there's always an answer. Like what I was saying before, like you just stay with it. You stay with it. You stay with it. Even if you feel like you're surrounded by walls and doors are being shut and you're not getting the momentum that you want, you stay with it and you stay on track, and you don't be that ADD entrepreneur that's chasing the next shiny object. You innovate, you be fresh and all of that, but you stay the course. Just go deeper. The doors are going to open. They will. Absolutely. But you have to be willing to stay the course.
Well, you bring up a good point, because we all have patterns in our lives. So recently I went through to see what patterns are in my life to eliminate. So as we grow as a company, we'll continue. And Ben Reinberg can get out of his own way, because that seems to be something that I wanted to figure out. And do you go through this with your CEOs where you look at it and they say from 0 to 7 years old and 7 to 14, and they start going through their lives and they look at the maybe if let's say it's a male, say it's me, okay, and you look at all my relationships I've had throughout the years, and you'll say, okay, Ben, here are the pattern I see, and here's what we're going to fix. Do you do that for your clients? Is that something, because we're all works in progress. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the name of the show, is I Own It. We own every aspect of our life and our behaviors and et cetera. But there are times where we're blind, Allison. I mean, I know from personal, I've been wildly successful in my career, and I am blind to certain things. I had to wake up and say, okay, Ben, how do you become the best version of yourself? So what do you do with your CEOs? Because we struggle with these root experiences that we went through as kids or young adults to get to this point.
Yeah. Well, first of all, kudos to you for being honest with yourself and looking at in the mirror, because we all have those blind spots. And I think,
by the way, I don't like looking in the mirror sometimes.
I know, who does, right? And some things where
experience at times.
Yeah, we have to take 100% responsibility. That's the first thing. We just have to take responsibility. There's something going on in your company, blaming others, it's just poor leadership, first of all. But I think that, we're here on this earth to evolve and grow, right? That's really as human beings. So we have to grow in our leadership. If you want your company to grow by 40%, let's say, you personally have to grow by 60% to be able to carry that 40%. Otherwise, you are going to totally sabotage it because of your own mindset. If we have CEOs that, we're saying, okay, here's a strategy, let's work together on it, and we find that it's just not happening, for us to just keep saying, do it, it's not going to serve anyone. We have to go, okay, what's the roadblock here? What's your fear around this, or what is coming up for you? And then they'll tell us, they're afraid, or they think this is going to happen, or this happened before, whatever it is. And we go, okay, so when's the first time that you ever remember feeling that way? And all of a sudden they'll go, yeah, it's, my dad used to tell me this, or, I completely bombed in this business, or my parents lost their business. So we really get to what is that old thing that they're carrying around, and then to go, okay, well, that's not what's happening right now. That's the past. You can just say, okay, that belongs over here. That's not me. That's not you. And now that you have that awareness, what can we do differently moving forward? So, yeah, it's such a mental game in business, but it's such an opportunity to also, like I said, evolve and grow. And then when you do, you're a better partner, you're a better parent, you're a better, daughter or son. It really impacts every area of your life. That transformation happens, and we see that with our clients daily.
I couldn't agree more. It's why I continue to do personal development. I have tons of mentors. I invest a tremendous amount of money and time in myself, because I always feel that if I can't show up as the best version of myself, how are other people going to gravitate to what our mission is and what we're trying to accomplish? And also just be able to help people too. Like you said, what your purpose is, which I live on the same path. And it's challenging to help people when you're not the best version of yourself. And so, because I believe, your actions speak louder than words. And so when you can lead and really show people, hey, I continue to work on myself, this is why, and it inspires others around you. So let's talk about culture, because culture, people use the word community, people use the word culture. Especially, it's a big word that's been thrown out there the last handful of years. Have you ever led a company where you felt there was a cultural problem inside, and how do you help companies where you have to diagnose a potential cultural problem? People talk about toxicity, people talk about personal lives getting involved in the business and creating, dissension and resentment and animosity. How do you deal with all this, Allison?
Yeah. So one of the pillars of the Scale It method is alliance of the team. And that's all about making sure that you're hiring people that are a fit to the culture, to the core values. Sometimes it's not real easy to tell when you're interviewing people if that's the case. But the key is that once you, like for us, a big tenet is integrity and kindness. And, so when you become clear about your culture, when you have somebody on the team that's not a good fit, they will stand out like a sore thumb. And I remember in a business that I had prior to this one, I had a woman on the team that was amazing at sales. And sometimes, it's not always the easiest is to find people that are amazing at sales. Like this woman she had some sort of magic. Okay. And at the same time, she was causing so much dissension on the team. Like there was always a drama. And I remember one day I ran into her. I went into Starbucks and I saw her at the register, and I actually walked out the other door. Like I didn't want her to see me. And I thought, oh my God, this is so wrong. Like I'm avoiding someone here. I have to really look at this. And then, not too long after that, I remember her saying something to me like, everybody's against me. And I said, well, everybody, could it be that you're the common denominator here, right? So I ended up letting her go, even though she had this great skill. She was bringing business to the bottom line. And I think that business owners oftentimes will keep people because of that. Well, they fill this role, even though they're mean to people on the team, or they're dishonest, or they feel like they have to constantly keep their eye open because they're not sure they trust them. I mean, I'm sorry, but nothing is worth living like that. And what you'll find out is that when you finally get the courage to let these people go and be on their way to, hopefully improve on those, their mindset and behavior and the way they are in the world, you're going to find out all the impact that they've had on other people in your team. They'll finally start coming out and saying, well, I was going to quit if you didn't let her go or him go, right? So it is so important that you put your team first and they feel like that you've got their back. And I think like for our team, we have over 50 employees, and we've got a lot of high level mentors and so forth as well. And when you start having a great reputation for people that are on your team for years, that are kind, that have fun together and go the extra mile, you'll start attracting those people to you. You won't have to be that person that goes, I can't find anybody. You hear that all the time. We can't find anybody. Well, it might be because once they come on your team, they're not treated with the kind of respect that you would really like to have for yourself. And I'm not saying you're the one that's not respecting them, but there could be other people on the team that are not treating them with the respect that you would like to see. So it just ripples out there into the world. So it's not just people coming on and having fun together, but it's people that are committed. They're all in for the vision of the company. And then you can start having this team managed company that can ultimately run without you. And that's a big part of what scaling is all about.
Absolutely. So let's switch gears a little bit. You talked about Zihuatanejo, Mexico. You spend time there. What do you like about spending time there, and how often are you going there, and why Zihuatanejo? There's so many places in the world to spend time. What attracted you to head down there for some time?
My husband and I got engaged there 19 years ago. And it is just a beautiful little part of the world. It's not a Cabo, it's not the party town. The people are so kind and so forth. So we've gone there for years, and I live in San Diego. So we drive down to Tijuana and we take a direct flight there. It's like 3 hours, so super easy to get to. I think the biggest thing is when I started to step away from the day-to-day of the business to be the CEO working on the business, the more that I was able to get away, the better the team functioned. Because I empowered them to take leadership and to own it. So my team does not need to be micromanaged whatsoever, even though we have all of these people on the team. And it's scary for a business owner to start letting go, and you're afraid that people are going to make mistakes, and they will, because they're human, just like we make mistakes and so forth. But the more you hover over them, the slower your business is going to grow. So the more I stepped away, the faster the business grew. And so we live in Zihuatanejo from December to March.
Oh.
And then we were just there for three more weeks. And, we took the team there, and we've had retreats and all that. So it's beautiful for that as well. But I'm able to clear my head, think of some of the best ideas to bring back to the company. I get re-inspired. And this is what we encourage all of our CEOs to do. I started with 1 week off a month. Now I take 2 weeks off every single month. And, since doing that, actually the business grows so much faster. I know that's hard for so many business owners to wrap their brain around.
I'm having trouble getting my brain around that. It sounds amazing.
Yeah. And, it's not that I'm always thinking about business, because that's the way my brain works. But some of our best ideas of the biggest initiatives that have multiplied the growth of the company are when I've been away, because that's where you get creative.
So, Allison, we're all works in progress. And
yes.
Share a recent example where you realized that you had it wrong and you didn't own it fully.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think that, anyone that's been a parent, you've had those moments where you go to bed at night going, oh, I should have said this differently. Like I reacted and so forth. And I think that the biggest thing that I work on these days, I work a lot on my own personal growth, just like you do, Ben. And I'll start off the day, I'll do my meditation, I listen to certain audios, I do journaling. So I'm in this great state. And then, something happens, something falls apart. And it's very easy to get triggered. And I would say that I've become such a better leader being that person working on the business, but I'm human like everybody else. And, I have reacted or said things that, later on I went, I could have said something differently there. And so, I will be the first one to go back to that person and say, I shouldn't have said it that way. You're doing an amazing job. Let's sit and figure this out together on how we can approach things differently. And so, those moments will happen to me too. But the biggest thing is that you're willing to take responsibility and then say, what can we do differently?
So we're going to wrap up with our 3 questions. Before we do, what is the best way for folks to follow you and stay engaged with you, to learn more about your services and really get into your universe, Allison?
Yeah, Ben, thank you for asking. Well, our website is pinnacleglobalnetwork.com. And so you can learn all about everything we do and getting the support. If you are ready for that and you're a more of an established company, you can get in touch with us that way and we can answer all of your questions. Also on social media, it's really Allison Maslan, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, any of those places. You can follow us. We have hundreds of videos on YouTube as well.
All right. Well, here we go. Are you ready for our 3 questions? I'm waiting
okay.
for this on. Here we go. So you're in studio with me in Laguna Beach. And by the way, you are more than welcome to come up. We'd love to have you in studio someday. You are such a wealth of knowledge and such a treat to talk to.
Oh, thank you.
Really enjoyed it. So you're on the couch. I said, Allison, kick off your shoes, lay down, relax, kick your feet up. How old are you now?
Oh, my goodness. Ben.
Well, you're not supposed to ask a woman, but on this show, we're allowed to because it's part of us. So you don't have a choice.
Oh my gosh. Well, I just hit the big 6-0.
Oh,
I just had
fantastic for 6-0.
Yeah. So I did. And, actually, I feel really great about it because I feel better than I honestly ever have.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So grateful for that.
So you're this intelligent, sophisticated, gorgeous woman now. You've been through a lot of experiences. Roll back to when you were 16 years old and you can go talk to yourself right now.
Mm-hmm.
What advice, what would you give yourself, provide yourself now, knowing what you know now with all the knowledge you have?
You do have the capability to accomplish anything in your life. I was always very determined. I was a gymnast growing up and so forth, but I had a lot of self-esteem issues. I really was very shy, extremely shy, to the point where my parents would have to say, speak up, we can't hear you. So I think having it's okay to say how you feel and to speak up and that your voice matters. That's what I would say to myself.
Oh, that's well said. I'm the same way. I'm shy too. I'm an introvert in an extrovert position. It's quite the challenge these days. So it's our last day on earth. God forbid. It's just me and you.
Oh my goodness.
It's our last meal together. Your choice. What are we eating, Allison? And what are we drinking?
Oh my goodness. Well, we're definitely drinking like the best bottle of Cabernet or Malbec on the earth. Okay. Because I love a good glass of wine. We'll probably drink a bottle then if it's the last day. And then food, my favorite comfort food, which would be mashed potatoes, because I grew up in Oklahoma. So mashed potatoes, macaroni and cheese.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this would all go together, but chips and salsa. That's probably my favorite food on the planet.
Wow, that's heavy.
I know.
What's the difference? But
yeah, I'd be toast by then, so we'd be all good.
I love how the wine ties into that. It's a good mac and cheese and mashed potatoes, but I love it. So in our studio, Allison, we have a black door you'd walk through, and you come through the black door, and you're sitting down, and you'll see a grand piano, drums, 6 electric guitars, and acoustic guitars in our studio. And you could have any musician or band walk through that black door. They could be living or deceased. It's your choice. Who's walking through that door and what song are they playing us?
Oh my gosh. Stevie Wonder, My Sherry Amore.
Oh, wow. I think that's the first time in the show we've ever had Stevie Wonder. I've been waiting for that song. That's well said. I love that.
Yeah. I love him.
Yeah.
And just everything about him. Yeah. He's Well, plus
Allison,
Lady Gaga. I'll just throw that too. I love her.
Lady Gaga would be great too.
Yeah.
So, Allison Maslan, thank you so much for joining us today on the I Own It show. We really appreciate your time. If you're interested in listening to more episodes like this with incredible, talented people like Allison, kick that right-hand button and click subscribe. Feel free to click the like buttons as much as possible so we can let this wonderful knowledge of Allison, and like I say, let it go viral. To follow me, go to benreinberg.com. You can follow me on all different social media platforms. And if you are interested in learning about commercial real estate and building wealth and a legacy for your family, look no further. Go to our company, AllianceCGC.com, and feel free to click on our brand new fund we just launched, the Alliance Medical Property Fund. It is the hottest fund in the market. So if you're interested in passively investing in commercial real estate, look no further. Go to Alliance CGC, and we'll be happy to help you and your family build wealth. Allison Maslan, thank you so much for joining us. What a privilege, and thanks for sharing all of your experience with our audience.
Oh, I loved it. This was a blast. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg. To hear our past episodes and connect with Ben, visit benreinberg.com.